Ever wondered what the most overpowered weapon in all of WorldBox is? Now we're placing a group of humans on the northern island, another one on the island next to it, and so on, setting each group one by one. Each of them will represent and wield a different type of weapon. Once everyone's in place, we hit play and let them start founding their kingdoms and building their first structures. Some begin with storage huts, others with campfires, but the important thing is that every group has officially established its own kingdom. There's one group down south that seems a bit lazy and still hasn't founded their kingdom, so we'll wait a moment until they finally get it done, just as expected. In total, there are 5 groups, and now we'll start assigning their weapon specialties. We've got the bow lovers, axe lovers, hammer lovers, spear lovers, and finally, the sword lovers. Once these specializations were assigned, I took the liberty of renaming and recoloring each kingdom so we can easily tell them apart throughout the experiment. As for the first signs of progress, we can already see that some kingdoms, like the spear lovers, are way ahead. They've upgraded one of their tents and built a windmill that'll help them produce food, giving a huge boost to their population growth. The hammer lovers, on the other hand, focused more on improving their existing tents, prioritizing quality over quantity. Still, they haven't built a windmill yet, which might slow down their economy in the long run. Meanwhile, the most underdeveloped so far are the sword lovers. They only have 2 tents and barely any visible activity. There are 7 people in total, but only 2 are working, and one of them is a 4-year-old kid. That alone says a lot about how poorly this group is doing. Lastly, the bow lovers have experienced the fastest population growth so far, already surpassing 20 citizens. However, despite their rapid increase in numbers, they haven't built any windmills or developed any major infrastructure. So, while they're ahead in terms of population, they're still far behind culturally. The axe lovers, on the other hand, may not have as many people, but they've made impressive progress. They've built a fully functional windmill, along with several cabins and pathways connecting each building, showing solid organization within their kingdom. We've just hit the 2-decade mark since the experiment began, and some groups are already standing out quite a bit compared to the others. Leading the way are the hammer lovers, who have clearly improved their tents thanks to the construction of a mine. From there, they extract mostly stone, which they use to reinforce the foundations of their homes, including the royal palace. They've also started expanding north, building even more tents in that area to keep their growth going. The spear lovers, who had a strong start, are still holding a pretty solid position. They've got a mine that provides the same kind of resources as the hammer lovers, though they haven't expanded nearly as much. Still, they did manage to build a siege tower, which is a nice step forward, even if it's not exactly useful considering it's facing north, where literally no one can attack them from. Even so, they finally founded their second settlement, marking an important step in their territorial expansion. The bow lovers are in a similar situation, having built what looks like a warehouse, although there doesn't seem to be anyone working inside. As for their capital, it's almost identical to the hammer lovers' kingdom, showing a very similar level of development in every aspect. Basically, they all have roughly the same population, sitting at a pretty even point compared to each other. The axe lovers are among the groups with the fewest inhabitants, but they're not doing bad at all when it comes to technology. They've built a siege tower, a mine, and upgraded nearly all of their tents, showing steady progress. The sword lovers, on the other hand, are definitely the most underdeveloped of all. They still have tons of tents that haven't been upgraded, and there's no sign of any siege towers or mines, which keeps them from gathering key resources. Because of that, there aren't any reinforced cabins in their kingdom either, putting them at a clear structural disadvantage. In terms of numbers, they're pretty much tied with the axe lovers, but when it comes to actual development, they're way behind. We've almost reached the 100-year mark since the beginning, and things are looking pretty clear. The map is almost completely occupied by the different groups, all sitting at a similar level of expansion, though there are big differences in how developed each one really is. When it comes to development within each kingdom, the axe lovers are in a great position. Several of their cabins have turned into proper houses reinforced with concrete and other materials, just like in the spear lovers' kingdom, where we can also see training barracks with armed soldiers practicing, along with multiple ports for trade, transport, and fishing. The channel between them is a bit narrow, but works perfectly fine. There's even a bridge connecting both kingdoms, allowing constant interaction between their citizens. As for the hammer lovers, I'd say they have the largest territory overall, but their population is way lower than expected. Many of their areas haven't been upgraded yet, and look noticeably behind compared to the other kingdoms, especially in the southern region. On the other hand, the sword lovers have shown a clear improvement lately, finally making progress in both infrastructure and overall development across their territory. They've caught up on many of the advancements they were missing before, while the spear lovers have managed to expand to a small island in the south, far from their main territory, which could be a strategic spot for future wars. The bow lovers, on the other hand, really surprised me. They still have tons of unreinforced tents, not even with solid foundations, which is strange considering they're the most populated kingdom. I guess they're they're prioritizing other things over architectural development. Here we can clearly see that the hammer lovers sit in last place when it comes to population, despite having a massive amount of territory right alongside the axe lovers, though with one key difference. The axe lovers have only about half the land the hammer lovers control. They've just founded a new settlement on a southern island, following in the spear lovers' footsteps, which shows that both kingdoms seem to be pretty aligned in their expansion choices. We've now reached year 500, and after all this time since the experiment began, here's the current situation. The bow lovers still lead in population with nearly 1,500 people, followed closely by the spear lovers with around 1,300. As for the remaining three, sword lovers, hammer lovers, and axe lovers, they're all sitting at about the same level, basically a symbolic tie. In terms of development, most kingdoms have been focused on refining their architecture, trying to make their buildings as solid and durable as possible. The same kind of progress can be seen across the other realms too, and I really hope they've also stepped up their weapon crafting. From what I can see, at least the sword lovers are now fully armed with their swords, and there are archers among the bow lovers. So it looks like every civilization is finally geared up and ready for the big finale. Looking closer, I noticed the axe lovers are lagging well behind the sword lovers and hammer lovers in population, a gap that's easy to explain given their smaller territory. Being sandwiched between the spear lovers and the bow lovers probably kept them from expanding as fast. So we'll fire up diplomacy now and let the wars begin. I decided the fairest setup is an everyone versus everyone free-for-all, so we can see which weapon really dominates this clash. And that's exactly what happened. Once we hit play, explosions started ringing out everywhere while ships tried to intervene in the fighting. Archers squared off against swordsmen along the small border they shared, and the axe lovers clashed with the spear lovers, although the spearmen, with their clear numerical advantage, pushed forward without much trouble. Still, they had to watch their backs because the hammer lovers launched an invasion from the south. For some reason, the bow lovers decided to pull out of their war against the sword lovers, even though they had a massive population advantage. Meanwhile, the axe lovers lost almost their entire population in no time. In a blink, they were completely wiped out, leaving their land empty, while the bow lovers tried to take it over but couldn't quite secure control of the area. Shortly after, the sword lovers' capital fell to the bow lovers, while the spear lovers managed to seize part of the hammer lovers' territory. Now stronger than ever, the bow lovers looked ready to launch an assault on the southern island controlled by the spear lovers. But strangely enough, despite having bows and a clear range advantage, they showed no intention of attacking enemy structures from a distance. The hammer lovers launched an attack on the sword lovers, hoping to conquer them, but they arrived too late. The territory was already under bow lover control. Still, the hammer lovers decided to keep pushing forward so their trip wouldn't go to waste, but they couldn't withstand the barrage of arrows coming their way. The archers' range advantage proved way too strong. Meanwhile, the war between the spear lovers and the hammer lovers raged on, with the spearmen managing to capture a significant portion of enemy land. But the bow lovers weren't about to sit back and watch. They organized a massive assault on the spear lovers, who, realizing what was coming, moved their troops toward the border to try and stop the invasion before it reached their heartland. Unfortunately, that didn't work out for them. The bow lovers completely outmatched the spear lovers in both numbers and combat power, wiping them out entirely. Taking advantage of the chaos, the hammer lovers managed to temporarily reclaim some of the territory they'd lost, but their victory didn't last long. The spear lovers, having regrouped and launched a renewed offensive, ended up capturing the hammer lovers' capital, with almost no soldiers left. The hammer lovers had no chance of fighting back and kept losing more and more ground until their entire kingdom fell under spear lover control. However, the bow lovers, with their overwhelming strength and larger army, launched a massive invasion against the spear lovers, quickly capturing their capital and soon after pushing deeper into their secondary settlements. In no time, the bow lovers also took over the former capital of the hammer lovers, pushing the spear lovers back to a tiny island in the corner of the map until they were completely wiped out by the archers. Seeing how ridiculously dominant the bow lovers turned out to be, it got me thinking, what if we pitted them against a civilization armed with shotguns or even laser weapons? If you want to see a sequel where these same bow lovers, exactly as they are now, go up against two new kingdoms, one equipped with shotguns and the other with lasers, make sure to hit that like button. If this video hits 10,000 likes, we'll make it happen.